You're listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
Definitely not what I meant to be starting with. I knew that didn't sound right. I was like, where's the video?
I kept waiting for you to start talking, and I thought, oh, I think you played the wrong song. Got it.
Well, and the YouTube thing is being weird, so like, it's going to be funny this is actually on the stream and we're just missing it.
Probably is.
Hey guys, welcome.
We're doing it live.
Hang tight.
You're listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 20 Personnel Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer. Michael, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? We're going to have a really good episode this time. We got a lot to talk about, a lot of energy, a lot of things going on.
We're going to fit in 1 hour. Here we go.
1 hour. Oh, my gosh. I don't know if we could do it.
I don't know. We have
people
lots...
that listen to our podcast at 1.5 speed just had a stroke.
Like, hold on. Flip it back. I'm going to speak slower now. I do actually listen to podcasts faster than one time speed, depending on the show, like 1.25 or 1.5. Hearing them like actually at one time speed, I was like, do people actually talk that slowly? And then realize like we're probably of the slowest bunch.
Sure. It
doesn't feel that slow, and especially right now because I'm all hyped up a Mountain Dew. But it is game week, man. We are finally made it. Kickoff is this weekend. Texas Tech hosting Arkansas Pine Bluff. We are talking actual football tonight. Before we get into football, I do want to announce something, Michael. I want to tease something, so I want to talk a little bit later. We would love to feature your reviews in the show. And I'll leave it there.
Okay.
I'll tell you what we want, what we need, what we crave later on. But tonight we are talking week 0 recap. I watched Farmageddon in Dublin. I watched a couple minutes of Kansas coming out of halftime versus Fresno State. I got some funny business with Stanford, Hawaii. We're going to talk about Texas Tech fall camp updates, the last fall camp updates, because it's game week now. Preview season is over. We're doing game previews. We will go through the depth chart, although not much is really all that new since we last talked about depth chart, but officially it's here. We'll go through that. We will wrap up our Big 12 projections with going through the rest of the Texas Tech schedule after we touch on Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions preview. Their logo is fantastic. I actually love that the mane is so much larger than the face of the lion. That's just it's a thing of beauty. Then we'll get to the meat of the Texas Tech projections through the rest of the season. I don't think the preview this week's going to take all that long. Hint, hint. And then we'll wrap up with the tortilla penalty update, the soccer team, how they're doing, maybe a basketball schedule if we have time. What did we learn? Lots of fun things in that section. So stay tuned. We will get there as we get there. Michael, week 0 kicked off. Farmageddon, bright and early Saturday morning. You know what I was doing Saturday morning at 11 o'clock?
What's that?
Sorry, I didn't even want to wait for you to answer. I was TV shopping. And not because I wanted to buy a bigger TV. I did, but because the TV we had in our living room was just going out. And I've never actually had a TV die on us before. Half the screen went out. I was like, well, that simply won't fly. So we basically bought the 65-inch newer version of the TV we had, came home, switched the wall mount over to the new TV, popped it up on there on the wall, and was watching Farmageddon. I'm probably a few minutes into the first quarter. Didn't make it home right in time. We had a couple of things going on. The space it's in, Michael, 65-inch, didn't actually feel that much bigger. But then I was sitting back I think it was yesterday. I was like, yeah, that'll do. I fought so hard not to buy the 75-inch version of this TV, Michael. And it would have cost me an extra maybe $100. And I was like, it's just so big. And I was already kind of like self-conscious that like Samantha can be like, that's too much TV. That's too big. She didn't notice that I bought the bigger TV when I got the 65 over the 55. It's like, we probably couldn't have got the 75-inch. Anyways, those that have 75-inch TVs, I'm a little jealous. Did it step up to 65-inch? Watched Farmageddon on it. Enjoyed the return of college football. Those that watched the game know that it was really sloppy at the beginning, especially with the weather. I looked over to Samantha, like, we're gonna murk both of these teams if this is how they're gonna play this year. Cleaned up a little bit once the weather dried up, but I left watching Iowa State beat Kansas State supremely confident in Texas Tech's chances this year. And I get this is week 0, and Texas Tech has not played a snap. And these teams are, a week short of everybody else, but still. In terms of overreacting, Michael, week 0 has me supremely confident in our chances against the Purple Wildcats.
Well, same here for the Wildcats. I was taken aback at how slow the offense took to get going and how few passes were actually completed
Matt
for a long
Wells.
time.
Yeah, look, Nathan in the chat here. I love Matt Wells now that he's not coaching for us. Yeah, that was the thing of beauty. You're talking about the slow offense. Sure, it was weather, but it was Matt Wells, let's be honest.
Well, and I think a couple of their biggest plays were just uncharacteristically blown coverages by Iowa State. I came away from this game kind of flip-flopped a little bit. So, I picked, what was it? Iowa State had a line of 7.5 for the year. I picked the under. I feel a little bit less confident about that now. They looked pretty when they were playing well. They looked good. Rocco Beck looked good. Their defense was able to keep Kansas State from doing anything, although I think some of that was self-inflicted. But I came away from this a little bit topsy-turvy. I thought Kansas State would win this game. You credit me for thinking that they would. You credit me saying that Iowa State would win, but I don't think I did. I think I had Kansas State picked not only to win but to cover, and so I didn't. I still am down on Kansas State this year, but
I was just going off the schedule we'd picked the previous week. But
well, I had Kansas State winning.
Did I have? I didn't have Iowa State winning, did I?
Let me see. What did you have?
Did I not look at the spreadsheet right? I probably didn't. I had Iowa State losing to Kansas State. You did too. Okay, we were the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
We agreed. But yeah, I thought Kansas State might win this one, even though I don't think they're going to be your traditional Kansas State team this year, as we kind of saw. But I do think I've underestimated Iowa State a little bit based off of one sample size on a grass field that somehow could not. Who striped this field? Who did this? What did they use? Did they use like baking soda?
He used talcum powder.
What gives? Did they do it 6 months ago?
They reapplied.
That was ridiculous.
You saw that, right? They reapplied their stripes in halftime.
No, but
well, they did the exterior and the goal lines.
Oh, it was awful.
Because
I don't know if I've ever watched a game that bad that wasn't actively a downpour or something.
Well, it was in the beginning, but yeah, it definitely degraded quickly. When coverages weren't blown or Bradley wasn't dropping passes, so many of Johnson's throws were behind the wide receiver. Yeah, Avery Johnson just did not look good. Dry ball or not. I don't know. There's like I said, lots of optimism to be had. Again, it's week one, and I don't want to I don't want to be like too negative on Kansas State, but I also want to be like, let's just overreact and chop it up now, man. Let's just say that's what they are the rest of the season. What we saw, the first 30 minutes of the game in Ireland, that's what they're going to be. All right. You said there was a first injury rule penalty. I actually missed this part. I may have been up with kids or snacks or whatever. Iowa State lost a timeout after a linebacker went down after the ball was spot.
Yes.
What happened there?
That just exactly that. It was really close. I think the ball was just placed down. The teams weren't huddled. Nothing was, the play wasn't about to begin or anything. The play had just ended. The line judge or whoever does that had just set the ball on the ground, and almost simultaneously as he was setting the ball on the ground, one of Iowa State's linebackers went down with what appeared to be a legit injury, just poorly timed on his part, unfortunately. And so that immediately cost Iowa State a timeout. And that is reviewable. I learned during that call, because this is something we were both interested in last week when we were talking about the new rules, but that call is reviewable. So you can actually go back and determine if the ball was spot before the player went down and if that truly should cost you a timeout or not. And so that happened in that game, and that also happened in the Stanford-Hawaii game, and both of them were I think the Stanford-Hawaii game was more obvious, and he was legit down too. It wasn't – I don't think it was any sort of strategy or anything, but it was a little bit clearer cut that the ball was obviously down before the defensive player for, I believe it was for Hawaii, went down. So yeah, I've already seen it twice in a very small sample size.
I'm sure you've all seen it, but I love that story that the Hawaii kicker basically self-taught himself how to kick field goals after watching an NFL game. Like, yeah, I could probably do that.
Yeah, on YouTube. Yeah, they mentioned it a couple times. It was one of those things where if it wasn't week 0, I might have gotten annoyed, but okay, we get it, guys. Now this kicker taught himself how to kick, and he moved to the Midwest of the United States so he could learned the language. He purposely picked an area. And anyway, it was, I enjoyed it though, because it was week 0. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. And of course, he kicked the game-winning field goal with 3 seconds left. That was a fun game too. You just kind of, I'm not really sure what Stanford was thinking there towards the end. They rattled off a 20-play drive for a rushing touchdown. I'm not going to say they made it look easy, but it was very methodical. And I don't know if there was maybe 1 or 2 passing plays that whole drive. They just kept handing the ball off. And then for some reason, when they got the ball back, they started throwing it. And one of Hawaii's players made a spectacular interception that just completely changed the course of the game. So I'm not sure what Stanford was seeing there, why they thought their quarterback should throw the ball when he'd been dying to throw an interception all day. Finally was able to do it. And then, Hawaii's over there with a 5'10" quarterback who's limping. The longer the game goes, the more ankle tape you see on both his ankles. And he's still making plays and making throws. And then you've got the kid, the self-taught kid that kicks the game-winning field goal. That was a great way to start the season too. I don't get to watch Hawaii very much because they're usually kicking off way past my bedtime because I'm an old. So it was so nice that game ended at about 8:00 Central or whatever it was. No, it was later than that. But anyway, it kicked off at a respectable time for us people on the mainland. The big island.
Big one. Yeah, then like I said, I watched the first few minutes after halftime of Kansas Fresno State. We were running around enough that like I missed the beginning of it. And I wasn't like, I have to watch this game. I was interested to see what Kansas looked like, and I wanted to see what the stadium looked like on the broadcast. By the time I turned it on, it was 24-7. I was like, okay, Kansas. Their offensive coordinator, it's relative. I was just reading his bio. He's co-offensive coordinator last year. He's been the quarterback's coach for a couple years now, and then full-time OC this year. I mean, they rattled off more than 200 yards rushing on 5.5 yards per carry. Had, almost 200 yards receiving and almost 10 yards per catch. Yes, it was Fresno State, but Kansas could be pretty good.
Well, yeah, and Kansas has a tendency to lay an egg on stuff like this. Like a big game with I'm not saying there's a lot deciding on this game, but a game where you're opening your new stadium and you're bringing in someone that you're a 12.5 favorite against. That this is one of those type of games I wouldn't have been too surprised if it was one possession late in the fourth,
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was pretty much nothing to it. I mean, they made it look easy. Jalen Daniels in his 18th year as a quarterback was coincidentally 18 of 20 on the day. He only had 2 incompletions. He had 3 touchdowns. He rushed for 47 yards on 8 carries. The defense picked up 2 interceptions. It was as dominating a win as you can really expect. So yeah, they looked pretty good on offense for sure. And the defense was getting pressure and, like I said, got those interceptions as well. But yeah, Daniels was looking pretty good.
Yeah. Texas Tech will host Kansas October 11th. I believe that is the 100-year uniform day. So we'll see them for game 3, 4, 5, 6. Game number 6. All right, let's wrap non-Texas Tech football. No, I didn't say that. Non-Texas Tech Arkansas Pine Bluff preview by talking about the press conference and last fall camp updates before we get to the preview. McGuire, Wood, and Leftwich all spoke, as they probably all will each week. Yesterday, I say yesterday, as a recording, it was yesterday. Monday, I can appreciate Sean Dillon asking every coach up there the same question first every time. He asked them all what 3 things fans would notice. McGuire may have only said 2. I gave him credit for 3. The other guys, like Coach Wood, kind of refused to answer it because he's like, I don't really know what they did last year because that's not where it doesn't matter to him essentially. And Leftwich was just talking about how, we're going to play fast and score from far and all that kind of stuff, which is just exciting to hear. But he did talk about the depth chart. So some of the thoughts that we're going to get through from the press conference will be depth chart related. Then we'll talk through the depth chart. Coach McGuire was asked about the unsung hero, Diamond in the Rough from fall camp, and he mentioned Sheridan Wilson, which you love to hear that as your anchor of your offensive lineman, your center. I think a lot of attention has been paid to the transfers that have come in, or even guys that were coming back from injury. But he and Davion Carter, I think, have been very quiet as the returners on this line, and I think for good reason. They just, there's going to be guys that are you don't have to worry about or be too concerned with. They're just going to be there. But it was great to see or hear McGuire call him out as just a unsung hero, diamond in the rough. And then it was asked about, in a different way, the preseason MVP. He gave 1 for offense, 1 for defense. Offensively, he said Cam Dickey, and defensively, John Curry. And if you've been hearing, paying attention, neither one of those would really be that big of a surprise. You hear that John Curry has earned his right to start this weekend at Star. Coach McGuire does say that Curry will play both Star and inside, depending on health and who's available and how they're doing at the star position. AJ McCarty and Michael Dingle are working back. But that doesn't take away from what Curry's been able to do and really make a name for himself out there. And then with the running back shakeup after the injury last weekend, not really all that surprised to hear Cam Dickey and his name up there. I guess I'll go ahead and touch on it here, Michael. I think there was some intentional phrasing on my part on that tweet about Adam Hill. Mm-hmm. But I think the point that I need to be very clear, and the people that were responding on Twitter are obviously not really the listening audience, and I'm not really going to put all this in a X thread that nobody will read. I think it also comes with some clarity from Mac Leftwich's comments today when he was asked about, hey, does your play calling change with a Joyner injury? He said, no, not really, because I've never really had 3 healthy running backs that could all play at the same level or, be
interchangeable,
contribute at a high level before. So going from 3 to 2 doesn't really change much. I'm more used to having a 1 guy or maybe 2. So now having 2 guys. So I think that's more what I was getting at. It was like, instead of talking about how the doors opened up for Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams and, how we're going to get to see those 2 guys play off each other, for the season. And then it was immediately to, let's talk about this unranked guy from a 2A high school that was making guys look like idiots as he was running over them. I wasn't trying to downplay Hill or that he came from a 2A high school. I was saying, I thought it was strange that instead of playing up Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams, it was immediately let's talk about running back number 3 on the depth chart instead of guys 1 and 2. That's essentially what I was talking about. Just to clear the air. Yes, Adam Hill will probably carry the ball a few times this season, and that's great. Wonderful.
You mean you were more interested in talking about the guys who have actual game film as Texas Tech Red Raiders than
and who will play ahead of him. I'm still more interested in what Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams will do then
And that is not a slight on every
Out of-
2A school in the entire state of Texas. You mean that's not
Despite
what
what
you
I
were
said.
trying to do?
despite what I said, no, that's what I meant. I wasn't clear about that. So no disrespect to 2A high school guys or the guys that have come to Texas Tech and been super successful. I think we can also agree that like those guys are more the exception than the rule. We talk about football players coming out of 2A, that they're not going to go to a Power 5 conference program and be meaningful contributors. Those are the exceptions to the rule. Anyways, that's all I really want to say about that.
Okay.
Excited that Hill is an option, that he's doing well. He will play on special teams. Yes, we have a fourth guy in the room, and Michael Henderson, and that had been in the works now for 2 months, predating the injury. But I'm most interested to see Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams do very well. Was also asked about the health and return of Vinny Scurry and Hunter Zambrano. He said, essentially, they are now available and will be working themselves back into the practice rotation. But at this time, the guard positions, left guard and right tackle are kind of set for game one. So their availability will continue to increase, but they will not be taking over as starters in game one. And the last thing from McGuire's comments from the press conference was he was talking about this man loves tubas. He was talking about the Goin' Band celebrating 100 years. And he said, there are going to be more than 1,000 members and musicians on the field at halftime for game one. And I was like, that's a heck of a group. And he's like, you know how many tubas that's going to be? And just like cracked himself up. That man loves tuba.
I have some insight on this. So coworker, her daughter is on the color guard in the Goin' Band, and she happened to be up at the office today, and I asked her about that. And I said, so do you have, are you guys really going to have 1,000 people on the field? She said, we have 947 signed up. She said, that's alumni only. And I said, oh my gosh. So that doesn't include the Goin' Band. She's like, no, if everybody comes that is signed up, we will have, 900 something plus the Goin' Band on the field.
1,300 people on the field.
I said, are you going to be able to do your job? She's like, I don't know. I'm not really sure.
It's going to be like what we make fun of like A&M for. They're going to be in a big block and going to march in straight lines back and forth.
Yeah.
If they move at all.
Or if they move at all, I know. Because I have seen, like, when the alumni band does come, it's usually a much smaller group. And they might march from one end of the field to the other in kind of a block formation. I'm like, that's great. But I think this one, they're probably just all going to stand on the hashes and, just a giant grid of 1,400 people or whatever it's going to be. The number just keeps getting bigger every time we say it.
I would love to see, and I unfortunately
6,000 drones.
No, I want to see them like split the field down like goalpost to goalpost, so like everybody's facing out. It's like not all 1,300 people are facing the west side stands or the east side. Like, I want them, like, you have enough drum majors or alumni. You can have 6 of them out there, 3 on each side. You can get this coordinated where everybody is getting sound instead of reverb off the stadium.
Well,
either way, I think it's gonna be really cool to see.
I do too. And quick shout out, I got tickets from a good friend of the show, Steven. He offered me tickets. He knows that soccer season kicks in very soon and that my availability to go to games is probably very limited until mid-November. And so he hit me up last week, offered me his season tickets. I'm taking my little one to her little one. She's not so little anymore. My 8-year-old to her first Red Raider game. There's going to be a drone show. There's going to be 1,000 people in the band. It's going to spoil her completely. I can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate that.
That's awesome. All right, let's talk. Let's go through the other coaches. The only thing I wanted to bring up from Shielwood was he was given an update, basically that BJ Jordan, starting strong safety, will be the player on the field wearing the comms in his helmet instead of Rodriguez from last season. And he said, not that he is any knock against Rodriguez or the linebackers, just that in his system that the safeties kind of take on more of that role. And he said, from his position as a coach, he interacts more with the safeties than the linebackers. It's like, it just works out better that, like, for me to talk to a safety, it just works a lot better. So I don't know. That's just a logistical update. Then Leftwich, I already talked about how play calling won't change with the Joyner injury because he wasn't, hasn't been used to calling, running game with 3 running backs. And then he was asked about tempo, and he said, I never want to sacrifice execution for tempo. So you'll see them go as fast as they can until it starts to fall apart. I was like, I don't want to see it fall apart. But unfortunately, you won't know how fast that is until something goes wrong. You're like, well, you're going too fast.
When I heard that, I clapped.
You're clapping now.
Yeah, that's good. Let's not do tempo just for tempo's sake.
NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do a quick run through the depth chart, Michael.
Yes.
No surprises here. Quarterback Baron Morton, running back Jacoby Williams. He was named first, and Cam Dickey. Verbally, I haven't checked the actual printed depth chart, but Adam Hill said he will get more carries, and we already talked about Michael Henderson coming over. He's a redshirt freshman who played defensive back and running back in high school. Yeah,
I had a quick one, a quick other thing to mention about Morton before we get to the wide receivers. So, did you see that in The Athletic, they asked a bunch of football players? They asked 57 football players what their best purchase was with their NIL money. Did you see that?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. So this is new to you. So David Ubben posted this on Twitter. Texas Tech quarterback and outdoorsman Baron Morton bought 150 acres of land near Cross Plains, Texas, which he plans to lease out to hunters when he's not there. Quote, it's 30 minutes from my parents' house. It has some fishing tanks on it, little elevation change, so a lot of deer, pigs, varmints, ducks, everything. Fantastic.
What a savvy use of that money. Buy land.
It's pretty good. Buy some land. It's the one thing they don't make anymore. That's what my dad always would say. So anyway, nice job by you, Baron. I think that's a pretty darn good investment. Even if it's just for you and your buddies to go dove hunting or something, whatever. I'm sure you'll come up with a lot more uses for it than that. Wide receiver. At the X, we have Reggie Virgil listed first. Micah Hudson listed second. So he's in there. He'll appear later on this depth chart. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know some of this. You probably dissected it yourself. Slot receiver, Coy Aiken, Roy Alexander. Z on the wideouts, you've got Caleb Douglas and TJ West. Now, something that we've noticed and that McGuire pointed out today too is that all of these are big guys, and the shortest guy may be 6'2" or 6'3", and especially Coy Aiken, that's not your typical slot receiver as far as size, and so that was something that McGuire was pretty pumped about.
Yeah. More of your pass catchers inside, tight ends, John Carlos Miller and Terrence Carter will be your first group of guys. We talked about this last time about how you have basically two groups of two. John Carlos Miller and Terrence Carter would be that group of, like, one's more of a blocker, one's more the pass catcher. Although Miller can catch, Carter can block. And the second group would be Llewellyn and I'm blanking on it. Was it Trey?
Dang, we looked this up last time and I blanked on it then too.
Anyways, excited about the playmaking ability of those guys, especially Terrence Carter. His explosiveness in his system last season, I think, is something I'm really excited to see how it translates to Texas Tech. Offensive line, really quickly, left to right. Left tackle Howard Sampson, left guard Will Jados, center Sheridan Wilson, right guard Davian Carter, and then right tackle Jacob Ponton.
Yeah, and of that, something that McGuire was really interested and pointed out was something that he's touched on more, and that you've already heard Spencer talk about, is like, hey, we know that the portal guys got a lot of love over the offseason, but we've got some guys that stuck around. And you already heard some glowing praise about Wilson, and he had more to say about him here. And he considers him the most improved offensive player. And then, Davion Carter, he brought up that he has only given up 1 sack in the last 2, possibly 3 years. Obviously he probably wasn't playing as much 2 or 3 years ago, but that's still something worth mentioning. So it was good to see that they have quite a bit of confidence up there, and probably a little bit more experience than even I realized.
Yeah, and then size wise, I think Jados, Sampson, and Ponton are all 6'7" or 6'8". Sheridan Wilson is 6'5". Then you get Davian Carter, who's probably 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah, he's listed at 6. He's listed at 6, but yeah,
I even think Gio made the joke that like Baron Morton's gonna have to like find a window off to the right to throw over Carter, just because that's where you can be able to see through in the receivers.
Well, he could throw over Carter to Carter. That's probably a realistic scenario.
Yeah, he could. Defensive line, we'll go there. Field defensive end. I'm not going to pretend to tell you which one's the side, like if it's the wide side, the rush guy. Because I think they're all. I have not done a deep dive X's and O's on the Shieldwood defense like I did a few years ago. But the field defensive end, David Bailey listed first, Charles Esters, and Braylon Rigsby.
Yeah, a common theme with what you'll hear with these first 3 position groups, all 3 of those guys have started college football games. They've started them. So this kind of builds your suspense to know that as we go through these next 2 groups, that they have also started games. So that the experience on the front is kind of like I mentioned on the offensive line, except a lot more on steroids. It's way more of an impact than I thought it would be.
Yep. Defensive tackle, Skylar Gill Howard, AJ Holmes, Duda Banks. Same thing that Michael said. All 3 have started college football games, either their previous location or at Texas Tech. And again, just so much like there's so much comfort and not comfort, but trust. And, if Skylar Gill Howard needs a breather, he's got 2 guys with legitimate starting experience that can come in and spell him. Like, hey, AJ Holmes will have this series, you'll get the next one. Or, his helmet comes off, he needs to, step off. It's not going to be this big drop off because we just don't have the depth there. No, we got legit 3 deep starters in all these positions. And then the other tackle position, Lee Hunter, Jaden Cofield, Duda Banks, cross training, available in both spots whenever he needs it first. He was there, but Lee Hunter, Jaden Cofield, Duda Banks. Do you want to do the other defensive end, or where do you want to go?
Yeah, I can do that. Okay, so defensive end / dog positions. We've got Romello Height, Terrell Tillman, and Cheda Ofili, who I think McGuire had a lot of good things to say about them.
Yeah, Tillman last season had 4.5 sacks and put on almost 15 pounds of weight in the offseason. Ofili, I think, has been McGuire's surprise on the defensive side. He's talked about how he's followed around, Romello Height and trying to, pick up on his work habits and trying to, emulate him. McGuire said that he believes he's playing even better. He's playing better because of David Bailey. I said height. I meant Bailey. He's been following Bailey around. So that's something that's really great to see, that, you know, the younger guys are taking advantage of the depth and experience ahead of them, and not like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and play behind them, but like trying to learn from them and soak in what they, you know, have to teach while they're here. So, and then your weak side linebacker, Jacob Rodriguez, no surprise there. John Curry will back him up. This is the position that Curry will be if he's not starting or not playing at the star position. And then next to that, middle linebacker, Ben Roberts and Bryce Ramirez will back up Roberts.
Yeah, and McGuire mentioned that, well, he just flat out predicted it. He predicted a resurgence of Ben Roberts. Wasn't knocking anything he did last year or anything like that, but just feels like in this system and with these guys up front, and they've talked a lot about that, about how these linebackers have just got a lot more room to move, and we'll be able to focus a little bit less on the line of scrimmage thanks to the big heavies up there. But yeah, look for a resurgence of Ben Roberts, and something I appreciated with McGuire, which is why he belongs in West Texas. And he said that the defense allows Roberts to play fast, and he said, quote, that he's fixing to go to another level. Which, I mean, fixing to, that's one of those things I kind of take for granted, because I probably use it here and there, especially when I'm not thinking about it. But I've used it in front of people that didn't know what the heck I was saying or what it meant. And so now whenever I hear it, I make a mental note about it. So McGuire, he's one of us.
One of us. John Curry, starter, at least at this, like I said, at this point, McGuire said he has earned his right here, backed up by AJ McCarty and Michael Dingle. I was blanking on his name real quick. McCarty and Dingle are returning from injury, but Curry has been the talk of camp, being doing so well that he's kind of forced the coaches to find a place to put him. They've had to find a spot for him, essentially. So there's that. Cornerbacks. One side will be Bryce Pollock, backed up by Dante Balfour. I think Shieldwood also said that Balfour's been making a name for himself and could really step in or, you know, spell Pollock at times. I don't know if it's Pollock or Pollock, but Pollock, I think, has been the one that's been picked up more. And then on the opposite side, there is an or here, Amir Boyd or Mo Horn.
Yeah, and you know, kind of working back towards the middle, already mentioned that strong safety will be Brendan Jordan. He's going to have the communication in the helmet. Oliver Miles will be behind him. Free safety, Cole Wisniewski, Malik Escara. And McGuire said that, and this is high praise, that Wisniewski reminds him a lot of Rabbit, who, of course, is playing professional football in Arizona. And, you know, one of the best defensive players to come through Texas Tech in quite a while. So we'll see how that plays out for the season. And I know that he's been getting a lot of buzz as well, and it seems rightfully so during this offseason.
Yeah. Let's run through the specialist real quick. Punter Jack Burgess.
Yeah, he not a lot to say about him aside from something that I feel is very significant. His average has increased by 5 or 6 yards in the offseason. Now, I didn't say what the average was, but we'll take that kind of improvement, that's for sure.
Yeah. The field goal kicker, McGuire is very, very adamant to say, like, as of right now, it's going to be Upton Belafonte. But that Stone is, he keeps calling him Stone. If you're looking for a Stone on the roster, you have to realize Stone is the first name. Stone Harrington would be the other guy. But field goal responsibilities will first go to Upton Belafont. He does not expect a competition to be going back and forth really past week one, like we saw last season. But that while Upton was doing, Belafont is doing field goals, Stone would be doing kickoffs. If you care, long snapper is going to be Rylan Volgana, and then your holder is going to be your punter, Jack Burgess. The returners, I think, are where it gets interesting. We had heard that these were probably going to be Jacoby Williams, but I think that all got shifted with the Joyner injury, and the decision was to reduce Williams's potential to be injured, not carrying the ball as a running back.
Smart.
So you'll see Roy Alexander on punt. And then Micah Hudson back there returning kicks.
Would you say that's probably the biggest, aside from the news about Q, obviously, but we knew that coming in. Is Micah Hudson being the kick returner probably the biggest news or the biggest surprise from this entire depth chart? Or the fact that he's listed at all? I guess that's not that surprised. I mean, if he's number 2 for X, he should be out there quite a bit. But
I think he's the one I'm most excited to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have been excited to see Jacoby Williams back there as a kick returner, because I know how explosive and fast he can be.
Yes.
But we know that from Hudson's high school tape and his his profile was that he was just extremely difficult to bring down. He's slippery.
The man has vision.
He's got some wiggle. So anything else you want to touch on the depth chart?
I don't think so. I just think I tend to sort of check out on a lot of this stuff until the depth chart shows up. And so now that it's here, it's good to look in and see that all of the experience, some from the program within, some transferring in, to see that, especially in the trenches on both sides of the ball, will give me a lot of confidence heading into the season.
Okay. Sorry. I have a notification from my IT group saying save your work and close any open applications before clicking install. Something wants to be installed in 15 minutes. So if I randomly just disappear in 15 minutes, Michael, you'll know. Of course, everything will be wrecked, but
yes,
all right.
It would.
It would be still going on Riverside. There's that.
Okay.
Let's do our Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions preview. Shall we?
Please.
All right. So typically we do a SP plus matchup here. Obviously, Arkansas Pine Bluff is not going to have these numbers. I can only tell you post-spring numbers, but Texas Tech coming in at number 26 on the SP plus post-spring. Kickoff 6:30 p.m. ESPN Plus. Weather shows high of 77, cloudy, possibly rainy on Saturday. So maybe bring a waterproofed resistant jacket.
Will do. We have some ponchos that we can bring in our clear bag.
A high of 77 sounds fantastic, by the way.
It does, but it also has I don't know what the muggy situation could be depending upon when that rain falls.
I don't want to hear anything about muggy.
Yeah.
Okay. We had a downpour today, and it's like 98% humidity here today.
That's true, Mr. Corpus. I would imagine that's not. You're done with it. You don't want to hear any humidity talk from Lubbock, Texas.
Not that I think we're all that much different in weather-wise right now. It is 83 degrees right now.
Yeah, but it's a balmy 83
10:15.
degrees.
Whereas, what are y'all, like 75?
We're probably less than that.
72. Oh gosh, we could open doors and windows if we were in Lubbock right now.
It's been a great day. It's a very false fall day. I'm going to be so mad at myself when it's September 11th and it's 103 degrees.
Yeah. Arkansas Pine Bluff coming off a 3-9 season, led by head coach Alonzo Hampton in his third season. This may be typical for a program at this level, Michael. They recently, I mean, like within the past 30 days recently, hired an offensive line coach. Announced on July 30th that they brought in a new O-line coach. That's less than ideal in my book.
I would imagine that is probably a little bit more common.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Some of these are going to be placeholders preview, but like, okay, Texas Tech is the number 26 best home team. First in the Big 12. Thanks, team.
Based off who knows what.
Who knows what. I did want to talk a little bit through the 3-9 from Arkansas Pine Bluff. They played Arkansas Baptist last year to a 73-0 drubbing. Arkansas Baptist, woof. They did also beat Prairie View A&M in a close one, 21-17, and 35-21 victors over Mississippi Valley. On the flip side, though, Michael, they were also dealt a 70-0 loss at the hands of Arkansas. So, little intrastate triad here. Arkansas probably could have beat Arkansas Baptist 150-0, sounds like. They also lost 41-28 at Tennessee State, 56-17 to Central Arkansas, 38-28 at Alcorn State, 31-21 at Grambling, 41-3 at Jackson State, 52-24 at Alabama A&M, 31-9 at Southern U, 31-21 at Texas Southern. So none of them are really all that close, their losses. They had a 10-point loss three times.
Yeah. Every loss was 2 possessions minimum.
Or 10.
Or 10. Between 2 and 10.
It caps their 4th straight losing season. Offensively, they are led by offensive coordinator Tony Hull. As of yet, I guess they have still yet to officially name a starting quarterback. I think they're one of those teams that think they're going to pull some kind of fastball over, or, to Texas Tech and make us prepare for all of them. Last season, their starting quarterback, Mekhi Higgins, transferred to Lamar. But that percentage is not right, is it?
Oh, it shouldn't be. No, that's probably a 6. That's probably a 6-2. Let me see.
Right. He's 175 of 328.
Oh, well, yeah, that's 53.4. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah. 2,500 passing yards, 7.5 yards per attempt, 16 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Also ran the ball 110 times for 134 yards. Not a great rushing threat or a big part of the offense. One of the guys competing for the starting role was on the roster last year, does have some stats, but only attempted 17 pass attempts, was 9 of 17 for 93 yards, or more than 10 yards per completion, 1 touchdown. Their big time returner starter on the offensive side is going to be their running back, BJ Curry, is also garnering some preseason accolades. It's a big dude, 6'2", 225. Last season, 123 carries, 500 yards, 4.1 yards per carry. Those numbers may not sound impressive, but like this is the big guy they're bringing back. In terms of like production wise, 4 touchdowns. And is a preseason all SWAC second team pick. Their starting quarterback last season was second in rushing attempts. And then third was Zamarian Weber, 65 carries, 350 yards, 5 yards per carry, and 1 touchdown. Receiving, though, Michael, is a completely different story. Their top 3 guys from 24 are all gone. Leading guy left from last year would be Giovanni Gibson. Their leading guy last year was Giovanni Gibson, 70 catches for 1,200 yards. It was basically Gibson or nobody. 70 catches, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns.
Man, that's nothing to sneeze at. That's a
no. Like he had a great season, but like literally,
yeah,
was
that's
like
a great season.
I think guy number 2 had like 16 catches. So offensively, last season, the Golden Line offense put the ball in the air for 220 yards per game at 7.6 yards per attempt. Ran for only 115 yards per game at 3.7 yards per carry. Converted 37.7% of their third and fourth down attempts and scored 23.5 points per game. Defensively, although this won't really matter with this kind of matchup, but Texas Tech gave up 308 passing yards per game and 8.5 yards per attempt, 152 yards on the ground, 4.5 yards per carry, allowed teams to convert more than 40.5% of their third and fourth down conversions and gave up nearly 35 points per game. I expect all those numbers to be quite a bit lower this season, but especially this week.
I did some quick numbers. So Giovanni Gibson, if he had 1,215 yards receiving last year over 12 games, that's right at 101 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was almost 50% of their passing offense.
Yeah, if their starting quarterback put up 2,541 passing yards, that's not all their passing yards, obviously. He had 1,200 of them himself.
Yeah.
So
big. That's a big hole to fill.
Yep. Defensively, as a unit, not very good. And this is a no-duh statement, but their yards per play wasn't great. Now that was Texas Tech, though. I'll give, I'll make sure that's clear. There 6.3 yards per play given up. Texas Tech gave up 6.5 yards per play. The big difference, though, they were not very disruptive. They only accounted for 7 sacks on the season. 3 of them, so almost half of them, came in their final 2 games. So there were games where they went in stretches where they had no sacks or 1 sack. They did force 11 interceptions, but 4 of them came against Arkansas Baptist. So they had 7 interceptions over 11 games, and then 7 fumbles recovered over the season.
And Arkansas Baptist was the team that they beat 73-0. In case y'all missed that. So yeah, that makes sense that you would grab 4 interceptions in a game like that.
Yeah. Looking at peers, they were 10th in total defense, and they're a 12-team SWAC conference in 2024. Defensively, they were giving up 209 yards through the air per game at 8 yards per attempt, 218 yards on the ground at almost 5.5 yards per carry. That makes you a little excited. And, Michael, I've never seen it this high. 53.2% of third and fourth down conversions were converted by the opponents against this defense, giving up 35.8 points per game. Texas Tech offensively, almost 300 yards through the air, 7.2 yards per attempt, 166 yards per game on the ground at 4.6 yards per carry, converting just a tick under 49% of third and fourth down while scoring 37.6 points per game. Again, I expect all those numbers to tick up. Well, the rushing may skew down a little bit without Tosh Brooks.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We've got our own missing phenom on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, rushing yards per game may go down. Yards per carry may go up.
That's possible.
So I have Texas Tech winning this game comfortably. In the notes, facetiously, tongue-in-cheek, I have Texas Tech winning this one 99-0. I think would not surprise me to see this game seriously like 63-10.
Yeah, I'm close to that. I've jokingly I had 101-3 earlier today, just to be different from Spencer, and I changed it to 6. And he asked me why I did that before I recorded. I'll get to that, but so my realistic score is 59-6. That's what I'm hoping to see. You know, Arkansas was able to put up 70-0 on them last year. Very similar position, a team that Texas Tech lost to in a bowl game. You know, I think that this is attainable and hopefully not disrespectful to any Pine Bluff fans listening. You know, this will be, you're entering a season after 4 straight losing seasons, 3-9 last year. I think that Texas Tech should win this handily, but where the 6 came from, I think there could be some crazy late pick 6 or kickoff return or something or punt return. You know, so I feel like there could be some crazy late game mistake that allows Pine Bluff into the end zone, but then they somehow miss the extra point. Because I have this quote from from the Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette. They interviewed the coach and talked to him a little bit about, you know, what they're expecting. And he said, we're where we need to be at this point, Hampton said. He said, we've had pretty much 3 weeks of practice, kind of have a really good feel for our football team, offensively, defensively. And on special teams, we're still trying to shore up a couple of things, but we're excited about the opportunity before us. So he mentioned special teams kind of, oh, by the way, I guess I have to talk about that. So that's where I came up with my weird, there's going to be some touchdown that they score, but they don't get the extra point. Maybe they go for 2 or something. So anyway, 59-6. I'm hoping it's just, I don't know, 42-0 at half. I'm not sure. We need to see what we expect to see, because the years that we haven't, they have gone very poorly and they've been very disappointing. And I think, you know, you try to be positive and, well, you know, that double overtime win versus ACU or squeaking by against SFA or whatever. Well, just jitters. It was just jitters or something. Like, nope. Look at the tape. Go back and watch the rest of that season. That was a sign, and it was bad. So I have too much. I'm pulling for this team too much this year for there to be any sort of doubt on the field at all during this game, during these first 2, really. And if we see any, then yeah, I think we should be a little concerned because of what we've seen in the past. What do you got? You there? Did you freeze on me or did I freeze on you? Oh, man. Okay. So Spencer just texted me that his computer is restarting and he will rejoin ASAP. So for those of you watching live, he says that I don't feel like I have to fill the entire time, which I probably won't. I'll probably check out for a minute, maybe get a glass of water, check on my cat, Rocky, see what he's up to, make sure the doors are locked, that sort of thing. But yeah, his computer's restarting, so that's going to be fun for him to put this podcast together. I'm very glad that he does all of the technical stuff. Maybe he'll hear this. I don't know if I've told him this in a while, but I would be so lost having anything to do with this podcast other than just show up, which is basically what I do. He runs everything else. So we'll kind of go through, you know, what he had to say after this. I think he wanted to touch on that teaser he mentioned out earlier with the new show reviews. The other thing that we wanted to do is go through. We will get to this. We'll pick every game based off of kind of what we locked in last week. That if you listened closely, you could probably tell what we picked Texas Tech to do in each game, because we did pick every single Big 12 game last week. It was probably a little bit scattered and hard to follow because there's a lot of games to pick, but we did it. And so tonight we'll kind of go through those one by one, let you know where we're at on each of them, and follow that up with kind of what the other games are doing around the Big 12 for the rest of the week. But I think initially, there was one other thing I felt like I could mention that he wouldn't miss. Let me see. Now, I think we'll just have to wait for the big guy to come back. So, for those of you streaming, hold tight. We'll be back when he gets on. I just don't want to repeat myself too much and share any sort of takes or anything with him not here. So, we will be back as quick as we can.
All right. It was ridiculous, but I am back. Hope y'all didn't have too much fun without me. It's okay if you did. That was stupid. I hate this. I could just not be cheap and just, use my own computer, but why would I do that?
Well, we're ready to dive into. I completed my prediction, rambled for a little bit, and now we're ready to go into the next item of business.
Standing on business. I can't wait to hear.
That's what we do.
Can't wait to hear what that was. All right, I'm back. We'll move on like nothing happened. Before we get to the Texas Tech predictions for the rest of the season, obviously Michael and I have us starting off. Texas Tech starting off 1-0. I would like to put a call out there for you 23 personnel listeners to open up your Apple Podcast app. Go into the show there and leave us a review. I have a personal fault of mine, Michael, is that I take myself too seriously sometimes. And I wasn't planning on like letting it get to me, but like I had this idea. I was like, we should see if we can get some new reviews out. And then I went to go look, and like the first couple of them were like negative reviews. I was like, oh man. So here's what we're gonna do. I want to bury those reviews. Leave a 5-star review and actually have comments in the review, and I'll read your reviews on the show. It could be completely off the rails, not even related to the show. Talk about what great guys we are, or great Red Raiders. Pump us up, whatever. Leave a 5-star review and I will read it. It could be about hot dogs. I don't even know.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be about us necessarily. It could be about your perfect Sunday. What's your favorite kind of ice cream? What's your top 3 hamburger toppings? I mean, just anything. We'll take it.
Idea of a perfect date. Is it April 20th? We'll see.
It's not too hot, not too cold.
Yeah, maybe just wear a light jacket.
Yeah.
Anyways, would love to hear your reviews of the show. I'm not going to shy away. Like, so some of the negative reviews talked about us being negative. Well, you will know, longtime listeners know, like, I don't really hold back what I'm feeling in an instant reaction episode. If we get embarrassed, or if I feel embarrassed, by the game, I'm gonna be forthcoming. Like that sucked. I mean, I like to be accurate, and like I don't like to pump sunshine just to pump sunshine. It's like I want to be accurate when I give you predictions or projections, whatever. And when the game doesn't go the way I want it to, or for whatever reason I'm upset about it, like it's gonna come out in the instant reaction. Some people in the reviews don't relate to that. Anyways, just giving you a heads up. That's what some of them are. Some calls Pink Raiders, whatever. We all wear our Red Raider emotions on our sleeves. But I would love to get some fresh reviews, specifically on Apple, because that's where I saw the top ones were negative. But if you want to leave reviews on Spotify or any place else you're listening, great, do that. Leave a 5-star review, leave a comment about it, attached to it, and I'll read it on the show. So do that. Help us out. That helps grow the show. And we'll keep getting more of our Red Raiders here alongside us. So let's jump into the 2025 predictions like we did for the rest of the Big 12. We're going to go game by game through the Texas Tech schedule. Obviously, we've given you Arkansas Pine Bluff. Next up, home games versus Kent State and Oregon State. I don't know about Michael. I have Texas Tech winning both of those to start off 3-0.
Yes. So do I.
All right. you and I felt very differently about Utah this season. But I think Texas Tech goes on the road. I am not a huge believer in Devin Dampier immediately stepping in and being the savior of the Utah experience. At least not in a way that is going to keep Texas Tech from winning in Salt Lake City. I've got Texas Tech winning on the road in Utah, starting 4-0.
We agree, because I don't really trust the Mountain West backfield yet. I haven't seen enough, because I haven't seen it at all. And just Utah had a lot of question marks to me after last season, and they still do. So, I mean, as good as their defense has been, Texas Tech has not been up there to play, but I think this is going to be, spoiler alert, a little bit of a special year for Texas Tech. So why not win up there too?
Why
Go 4-0
not
into the bye week?
Yeah, why not us? In the words of Kyle Jacobson. Bye week. Coming back after that on the road, opening weekend. First weekend in October down in Houston, my neck of the woods now. I mean, it's weird to say.
Yeah, way better than closer than mine.
I think Texas Tech handles business against the Cougars. I think Willie Fritz and the Cougars will be improved this season. I do think Connor Wegman's going to be better than any of the guys they tried out there the past couple of seasons. But I think Texas Tech's going to win this one pretty handily. I see pretty handily. Like 2 scores, at least.
Handily enough.
It'll never be in question. How about that?
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think Houston. I've got a lot of faith in Fritz, and I think that it's, unfortunately for us, probably just a matter of time before he gets something going there similar to what he's done in his previous stops. So I don't think it'll be this year. Year 2 is really hard. New offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. One was fired, one came here. So yeah, I'm planning on a win there for the Red Raiders, for the good guys.
Yeah. Next game, hosting Kansas, got the 100-year uniform homecoming. I don't know. Like, we saw what they did this past weekend. I didn't even touch on it when we talked about that game. Jalen Daniels was already limping on the sidelines. That's not a great feeling for the Jayhawks. Maybe it was nothing. But also, like, that's not been a great part of their football program of recent, has been Jalen Daniels' health. Midway through the season, he may be already banged up. But you're coming back home. You have some juice there. I don't know if that's the Graham Harrell game or not. But give me Texas Tech winning this one to start 6-0.
Man, I'm with you so far. We are identical so far. I really wish that person who thought we were negative Pink Raiders could hear us rattle off a 6-0 start for probably the 3rd time in program history or something. I don't even know if that's true. But
first one since 2015, 2013.
Yeah,
it was
Kingsbury's first year.
7-0, then 0-5.
Yeah, so I've got Tech beating Kansas. I do think I think Kansas is going to be probably a little better than I thought they were going to be, but they're in the same boat. They have 2 new coordinators. They were at least promoted from within, so it's probably not as big of an adjustment for the players. They did finish strong last year, 4-2. They look to keep that going. They had a bad start last year at 1-5, and if they're able to play like they were on Saturday, I don't think 1-5 is going to happen. So they could be a pretty good team, but I'm still picking Tech.
Yeah. This stretch here, this part of your season between your 2 bye weeks, one, it's long. You've got 7 games between the 2 bye weeks, but even within this stretch, you've got a pretty good bell curve here that ramp up between Houston, Kansas to Arizona State. A dip, maybe. I don't think Oklahoma State's going to be great this season. I picked them 5-7, so better than last year, but not like world beaters. Then you got Kansas State on the road, and then coming back home for a couple of winnable games, BYU, UCF. So first up in that stretch, on the road, Arizona State. Sam Levitt, offense should be good. Yes, they're replacing Scatterbo. I think this one could be a dogfight, man. It could be back and forth. It could be gnarly. But we talked about it earlier. I've got Arizona State going 9-3. One of those three is going to be losing to Texas Tech. Give me 7-0 start.
For the first time we disagree. I do have Texas Tech going up to Arizona State, who when Tempe endures a haboob, and there's pictures of it around the football stadium, it's cheeky and fun, but when there's a haboob in Lubbock, it's cruel and tragic. So that kind of just festered last night once I saw that on Twitter. Everyone was just so, oh, this is interesting, so cool, so neat. But if it was Lubbock, everybody would be taking the first opportunity to just post a giant dump on our town. Anyway, good for y'all, Tempe. You don't have that. But I do think this is going to be a really tough game. I am with you. I have Arizona State. I might have even been a little bit more bullish on them. Is bullish good? Bullish is good, right? Bull market, bear market. Any finance bros out there? We did start as a cryptocurrency podcast. Anyway, I did have Arizona State going 10-2 this year, so I felt pretty good about them. And I think one of those 10 is going to be when Texas Tech comes to town after a 6-0 start. But I'm with you, Spencer. I don't think it's going to be I think it will be a very close game. And, these guys, we talked about the experience Texas Tech has on both sides of the ball. These guys are returning 15 starters on both sides of the ball. So, like you said, Scatterbo is going to be he's a gigantic missing piece, but they've got a pretty darn good sophomore quarterback back there who I'm sure will be able to make some plays with his arms and with his arm, not arms. I mean, I guess he'll use both of them.
He needs
with
both.
With his arm and his legs.
And according to ESPN, this is the most impactful game on the schedule. Swing game here, October 18th. Red Raiders game in Salt Lake City against Utah could be a challenge, facing a revamped team that is always a tough out in Rice Eccles. But Texas Tech and Arizona State are viewed as two of the clear-cut favorites in the Big 12. This game comes 2 weeks before the Raiders have to go to Manhattan and face another conference contender in Kansas State. As we learned in 2024, this new look Big 12 can be quite unpredictable. That's from Lyles. I don't remember his first name. Sorry, Lyles, but that was from his. Like I said, it's going to be a rock fight, but you beat him last year with Scatterbo. So I'm just saying. All right. Home versus Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State is always kind of lurking, but man, they brought in like 1 billion transfers, and they weren't like good transfers. So like they're trying to rebuild that roster, and maybe they'll catch some magic in a bottle, but like not in Lubbock this year. Texas Tech 8-0.
Same. Not same, but 7-1. I think Oklahoma State has a lot ahead of them to get back to what we're used to seeing them, and I'm going to continue to pick against them until I see something otherwise. Until I see a team that won't go winless in Big 12 play. I'm not predicting that to happen this year, but my goodness. Let's just not forget how bad last year was.
Yeah.
Biblically bad. Fire everybody bad. And everybody was fired, but Mike Gundy.
But Gundy's still there. All right, Kansas State, the other big road game in this stretch. You catch Kansas State at a weird spot in their schedule. They have 3 bye weeks, mainly because they play week 0. So they don't really get like a rolling start. And the way that I see them going, they've already lost game 1, but they get 3 games until their next bye week. Home versus North Dakota, home versus Army, and then on the road in Tucson, take on Arizona in a non-conference matchup before they hit their first bye week. And then they get UCF, Baylor, TCU, bye week. Kansas, Texas Tech, bye week. Like, they don't even get a chance to really build any momentum because their bye weeks keep breaking it up. At least that's how I see it. And maybe that's just me trying to downplay Kansas State. I don't have them being I've got Kansas State going 8-4 this season. I think you catch them at actually a pretty good spot in the schedule. Not that they're stumbling, but like they just get like this weird stutter throughout their schedule with the bye weeks. You catch them after Kansas. I think Kansas will be better. I think Kansas beats Kansas State. I think you beat Kansas State in Manhattan for the first time in something like 20 years. 9-0.
Pretty much right there with you. And I am, I've got Kansas State going 6-6 this year, but I had them winning game 1. So that didn't really help me much. I do think that they are going to struggle a little bit more than what they're used to seeing, similar to Oklahoma State. And I think we saw some of that in Ireland. So right there with you. I think Texas Tech gets the dub in Manhattan for the first time in forever.
I think it's officially 17 years. I think it was 2008 was the last win in Manhattan. And then you get to this last stretch in your schedule: BYU, UCF at home, bye week, then on the road at West Virginia. Michael, tell me where you lose in that stretch.
Okay, I will tell you. I had to
You think we're gonna lose at home versus BYU? I remember this now.
No. Okay. Here's what happened. I've made an executive decision just moments ago. So yes, for those of you listening close enough, last week I did have Texas Tech losing against BYU. And then I went back through all the picks I made of the Big 12, and that would have put us tied 9-3 with TCU in my world. And the 3 losses, well, I've got Tech losing to West Virginia. Spoiler alert. I'll get to that in a minute, and I'll tell you why. But the 3 losses were Arizona State, BYU for Tech and TCU. And then the other loss was TCU losing to Kansas State and Tech losing to West Virginia. And so then it would have gone to some weird tiebreaker thing because they both had the same record, but then Tech doesn't play TCU this year. And so I just thought, I want to avoid that hypothetical scenario in my hypothetical scenario. So as we were talking, I swapped that win. So I've got Tech winning when BYU comes to town. That doesn't affect my over or unders that I locked in last week. Those are still the same. So that did change. UCF dub when they come to town. But because my heart can't take it, I've got Texas Tech going up to West Virginia. I've got West Virginia, a 5 or 6 win team this year, desperate in need of a bowl win or a game to go to a bowl. Texas Tech doesn't really have much to prove because they are going to be in the Big 12 championship no matter what in this scenario. They will have just come off of a bye week. That seems like the worst time bye week you could almost come up with, right before the last game of the year. After a heroic, fantastic 1-loss season. And so this just seems like a game that if Tech's going to lose or lay an egg, it could be this one. And because I had to guard my heart just a little bit because
screw that, man.
Especially now I went from 9-3 to 10-2. But anyway, 10-2, man. That's where I'm at. That's
12-0, baby. Suck on that.
That's Pink Raider right here.
Pink Raiders.
I've got 2 losses over here, and you've got 0. Just a couple of Pink Raiders with a podcast.
I think you're going to get on a roll here, and then it's just going to be like, yeah, you've got tough games. Obviously, on the road at Utah. I'm not a believer in Dampier in that backfield, the new offensive coordinator. Whittingham was checked out last year. they played poorly enough that he decided, I can't retire on that note. Let's try one more. Let's try one more, so I can not go out in disgrace.
They had injuries.
And then, well, yeah,
But
and
who
then
doesn't?
his attempt to go out on top was to go grab a Mountain West quarterback, running back, and offensive coordinator. Okay.
He just wanted a tried and true plug and play so he can go fishing.
Arizona State is the weak link in my 12-0 plan here. I think that's your least likely of mine. Like that's my lowest confidence. Next would be at Kansas State, but I'm not sold on Kansas State after week 0. I get that it was one game, but I saw enough holes in that offense. Reminded that Matt Wells is the offensive coordinator. They're replacing DJ Giddens. And I know like he wasn't Taj Brooks, but like they're going to be a little bit more one-dimensional on the arm of Avery Johnson, and he's not the best passer. I think you get on a roll, man. I'm manifesting that you just roll through this thing and you just waltz into the Big 12 conference title game unscathed to take on Baylor, let's say, because you don't face them this year either. I don't know if I don't know if I have the tiebreakers all lined up correctly. Technically, I think I have Utah at 10-2. Screw that. I don't want to rematch with Utah. I think Baylor could be pretty dang good. And you don't face them this season.
I have Arizona State and Texas Tech both finishing 10-2. With sole second place would be TCU at 9-3, and then I've got Baylor and BYU at 8-4. I'm really high on BYU. I couldn't even articulate why last week, but I just am. They were 9-3 until just now when I switched them. So long story short, I've got Texas Tech losing in Tempe, but then totally redeeming themselves versus the Sun Devils in the Big 12 championship. I cannot stress how weird this is for me. I think the entire time we've done this podcast, this is what, season 6? 5? We started in 2019, so yeah, this is our 6th season? 7th? If you're counting seasons.
We started January of 2018.
Oh, 18.
This was after the 2017, the very end of the 2017 season.
So this is our 8th season to pick.
Never been all that accurate. Let's just throw that out there.
No, absolutely true. But I don't think I've ever picked Tech to win more than 7 or 8. And I'm picking them to win 10-2. And I feel like if it's not going to happen this year, when's it going to happen? Might as well pick this year. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's use the portal. Let's use the guys we got. Let's assume that they're as good as we think they are. Let's go with the talent that's been evaluated by the guys getting paid millions of dollars to evaluate said talent. And the man who makes business deals, worth more than my net worth before he has his first cup of coffee in the morning. Let's do that. Let's go with these guys and go all in, push all the chips in with them, and see where it takes us.
Yep. All right, let's whip around the Big 12, look at the other action going on in game week 1. There are 5 days of college football action coming up starting Thursday night. Jacksonville State at UCF. UCF is a healthy 3-score favorite there at home, 6 p.m. ESPN+. UT Martin, that is University of Tennessee Martin, at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State almost 20-point favorite at home, 6:30 ESPN+. SFA at Houston, 21.5-point favorites for the Cougars, 6 p.m. ESPN+. And Nebraska, 6.5-point favorite in Kansas City facing Cincinnati, 8 p.m. ESPN. All 4 of those on Thursday night. Any of those catch your eye, Michael? Probably Nebraska, Cincinnati, yeah?
Definitely that one. I am kind of morbidly interested in the SFA at Houston. Part of these catch my eye too because I know that on my Xbox I can watch all 4 of them at once through the ESPN app.
Nice.
If they stagger enough, so that may be happening, and I'm sure my family will be thrilled. But yeah, Nebraska versus Cincinnati, definitely interested in that. I don't think it's Cope, but I started noticing this last year. You know, it used to, the old Big 12, it seemed to be kind of work to find interest in the Big 12 games at times, but there's something about this new Big 12 that, as we'll go through these games, I'm legitimately interested in most all of them. And it's solely because there's a Big 12 team in it. Like that's the driving force of it. And it looks like it would, or it looks like it would be an interesting matchup.
Yep. Friday night.
Wagner at Kansas is not one though.
No. But you do have 2 other Power 5, Power 4 on Power 4 matchups. Georgia Tech -4 at Colorado, 7 p.m. ESPN. Auburn, 2.5-point favorites at Baylor, 7 p.m. on Fox. Both of those are Friday night. You just flip back and forth between ESPN and Fox Friday night.
Yes, very interested in those.
No. Stupid watch listening in.
Especially the Baylor game, because you and I both, I think you're more optimistic on Baylor than I am, but I do reluctantly, I had to admit some hard truths to myself last week that I think they're going to be pretty darn good. And so I want to watch that and just kind of see what Colorado is able to do against as a home underdog against Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I want to see what Colorado looks like without Sanders and Hunter, and
yes,
see what kind of porta potty setup Dion has on the sideline. Actually, I don't really care about that. I mean, best of luck to him and his.
I mean, yeah,
struggles. It probably that sucks. I just I'm not.
Yeah,
I don't mean to make
we care. we care in the best way, but yeah, we're not going to be. Anyway,
Saturday, Big 12 action starts after lunch. Robert Morris at West Virginia Snooze Fest. I will not even check that one out. Maybe a score watch at the end. South Dakota at Iowa State, 15.5-point favorites, 2:30 on Fox. It's interesting they got a Fox broadcast for that game. North Dakota at Kansas State, 25.5-point favorites are the Wildcats, 6 p.m. ESPN Plus. Portland State at BYU, 43.5-point favorites, 7 p.m. Couldn't care less. Northern Arizona at Arizona State, 28.5 points, 9 p.m. ESPN Plus. I'd score watch that one. Hawaii at Arizona. Arizona's 17.5-point favorites on TNT. Interesting. 9:30. And Utah at UCLA, 10 p.m. on Fox. That feels like a really late kick for Big Fox.
Yeah. I just talked about how interesting all these Big 12 matchups were, but man, only these last 2 grabbed me at all, and I'll probably be asleep or on my way back from the Jones.
Yeah, I mean, the game may not even be over by the time Utah and UCLA kick. Probably over by that time. Definitely not by the beginning of Hawaii at Arizona at 9:30. You won't be home to catch kickoff for Utah UCLA. And at that point, I've already missed the opening kick. I don't know.
Might as well go to bed.
No,
got to record an instant reaction with you too.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. I don't know how it's gonna work because my in-laws will be here at the studio. So,
just barge in. Yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk about that offline. We'll figure that out.
We'll figure that out. We'll figure out if there's going to be instant reaction this weekend. And then Monday night, no Big 12 action on Sunday. You get a little reprieve, but there are games on Sunday. Monday, TCU at North Carolina. TCU, a road favorite, 3.5 points, 7 p.m. ESPN. I'm watching that game for sure.
Yes, glued to the TV for that one.
Glued. Every team in action this week. So,
as far as glued to the TV, Were there any other Week 1 matchups outside of the Big 12 that have captured your attention?
Texas, Ohio State.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
East Carolina, North Carolina State, NC State.
Okay.
Has my corner of my eye. I'm looking at that one. Scrolling through, not really anything on Friday. Syracuse, Tennessee, Saturday morning. Just with the Tennessee connection. Who's LSU playing? They were playing somebody. Clemson. LSU Clemson.
Yeah, that's pretty salty.
Death Valley. The Death Valley off. Number 9, LSU at number 4, Clemson. That's the other one I'm looking at.
Yeah, this is at the same time as the Utah-UCLA game. So Colorado State at Washington, for some reason, that kind of intrigues me with Colorado State moving into the Pac-12 next year. Playing a team that used to be in the Pac-12 that's now in the Big Ten, whatever. I don't even know. So that one's sort of intriguing. I might at least just check the score on the SMU game. I know they're playing East Texas A&M, so I know it's not going to be like a. I just want to see the score.
I learned today that East Texas A&M has a football team.
Yeah, so did I. And then as far as Sunday, we've got a couple of decent ones. Virginia Tech at South Carolina and Notre Dame at Miami, which I'm sure I will watch a good portion of one, if not both of those, if at all possible. But yeah, I mean, the Big 12 matchups, I do think, Cal at Oregon State, I just skipped over that one. That's going to be a really good one to watch, just so we can kind of see what the heck Oregon State's up to. That's at 9:30 Saturday night on ESPN. So that might be one to pencil in for those of you who, get tired of watching Texas Tech up 49-0 in the late in the third. Just switch it over to TNT switch it over to ESPN. Watch Cal at Oregon State. Do some scouting. Put it in your review. Put it in your 5-star review, and we'll just read that instead of actually doing any work that week.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I'd throw that in there too. But yeah, Texas, Ohio State's the other obvious big one that you just can't avoid that. That is a juggernaut of a game.
Sorry, Samantha just texted me the story. She said, pretty sure Grayson, our oldest, was just sleepwalking. And was like telling me the story about, oh, well, that's a thing. East Texas A&M is Texas A&M Commerce.
Oh.
Again, didn't know they had a football team big enough to be playing SMU.
I did not know that Texas A&M Commerce had changed their name.
That too. So yeah, that's what I have for week 1. This came up before we recorded. Tortilla penalty. Texas Tech seems to be the target of some ire around the Big 12 because the Big 12 conference instigated a new rule or emphasis on policing and enforcing the rule about throwing objects onto the field. And it passed 15 ADs to 1. Essentially saying you get 2 warnings for the first 2 and then a 15-yard penalty on the third. Very much, I mean, yes, you don't want batteries, water bottles, trash, beer bottles thrown onto the field. Like you've seen at Texas. We've seen it. Stopped games.
Or at Tennessee.
Tennessee literally stopped games, came to a halt. You had one incident 5 years ago now against Oklahoma State, but even then, it's unclear if that was an actual Oklahoma State fan that threw it. Because if you draw attention to it, you say, hey, don't throw a water bottle, you're going to get a penalty. The home team's going to get a penalty. what stops an opposing fan from throwing it then? So, anyways, that's not really been a problem in the Big 12 or at Texas Tech, but now all of a sudden they need a renewed interest in policing this and enforcing it. So, feels very much like, at least that's what Kirby Hocutt mentioned at the Big 12, the kickoff luncheon, that the other Big 12 ADs were so threatened by what Texas Tech was doing that they stooped so low as to try to interfere with our game day on-campus traditions, namely the throwing of tortillas at kickoff. And then they talked about the partnership that has now come out of this with United Supermarkets donating tortillas, to how they're going to collect and round up the tortillas that are thrown at the games and donate them to Breed Love for pig feed, and all the goodness is going to come out of this because the other Big 12 ADs wanted to be petulant children, that they didn't have the backers and donors that, we do. So suck on it. We're going to throw tortillas. I turned to AI to have a graphic created. I shared it with Michael. I put on X too, but essentially, you've seen how Texas Tech fans react to being called out, like having some kind of attention drawn to something, and they're just going to do it even harder. So you will see the stadium fall into shadow at kickoff because of the amount of tortillas that will be flying. And I welcome it. Even if it causes a penalty, throw them every chance you get.
I have a slightly ho-hum take on this.
It's okay.
I think Hocutt has made it a bigger deal than it needs to be. I think it's kind of like what you just said. When you're at a game and McCasland or somebody gets on this mic and says, "Don't throw stuff," people start throwing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this, but amplified to 11 because it's coming straight from the thought that it's a 15-1 vote and everything, which I'm sure is true and all of that, but it naturally dies down after 2 kickoffs anyway.
Yeah, because there's nothing else to throw. They're all trash, or
they're all gone. They're there's a few sad ones that get thrown later on, but they're not the type. They're not of the caliber that can make it onto the field. So I don't see going up in arms about it. And the more up in arms we are about it, the more likely that someone is going to hold back some tortillas just to see if they can get some on the field after, the third kickoff. Someone was telling me that, I heard they're freezing. I'm like, well, the way they get them in, they're not going to stay frozen long. I can tell you that much. 6:30 in August. Good luck keeping those tortillas frozen in the small of your back or wherever you smuggle them in. But I'm not so much worried about that, but I am a little bit concerned about the opposing fan thing, especially with Oklahoma State coming to town. What if they bring a pack of tortillas that they obviously just wait to throw till a crucial time in the fourth quarter or something? Anyway,
you'll know
who knows?
An opposing fan when the tortilla flies at wait a minute, we throw it at kickoff after a Texas Tech score. So if there's a random tortilla that flies, not at that time, that wasn't a Tech fan.
That wasn't us.
Now me saying
that's like the guy holding up, holding up 3 fingers in Inglourious Bastards. Okay, that's the sign. That's the telltale. He's obviously an English spy.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some soccer, because I said we're gonna do this under an hour. We're approaching 2 hours, and that's okay. Just how it is. So
I will be fast.
That's fine.
Soccer, they did go 1-1 this week, so they lost their first game of the season. They only lost 5 last year, so kind of surprised everybody a little bit. They did win Thursday last week at Santa Clara. Tech scored 2 goals within the first 4 minutes. Went on to win 2-1. The first goal Parsons knocked in with 19 seconds into the game. Zadrewski went in. Let's see, hers was like 3 minutes, 35 seconds in. So both of them were there under 4 minutes. Texas Tech had 5 saves on 6 shots. So obviously one of those went in, but were able to maintain on the road at Santa Clara. But on that same road trip, they head to San Francisco, ended up losing 0-2. This was on Sunday at 1. I attempted to watch it, but the camera angle made me nauseous, and the ESPN Plus feed was cutting in and out. So it was like 2 things really working against me because the camera angle had to move so much. It was almost like it was hanging over the midfield line. I mean, it just seemed like anytime the ball moved, that camera was moving with it, and I couldn't do it. So Texas Tech lost those 2 games. They were held without even a shot on goal for the first 80 minutes. So San Francisco really brought their A game on defense, frustrated the Red Raiders, and Coach Stone was not very happy. He gave a lot of credit to San Francisco and how well they played, but he said, he complimented them on a lot of things, and he said, when all of that is combined with one of the worst performances I can remember from a Tech team in a while, it was a recipe for disaster, and disaster struck. So, he talked about them being aggressive, USF, and they were. I mean, they had 17 fouls versus Tech's 9, so they were frustrating our Red Raiders quite a bit and keeping them from moving the ball. But that's the way it goes. They had, I think Texas Tech had 2 non-conference losses last year, went on to only have 3 more for the rest of the year. One of them was in the NCAA tournament that ended the season. So not all is lost, obviously, but it is according to the coaches poll, which is hilarious to me. I wrote this down beforehand. So Texas Tech was number 18 going into these 2 games last week. And earlier today, I checked it and I said, well, it's not updated, but knowing how polls like to treat Texas Tech, I wouldn't be surprised to see them knocked out entirely. And guess what, folks? They were. So a 3-1 Texas Tech team at the end of a 2-game road trip on the West Coast that lost 0-2 is no longer in the poll, and they are no longer receiving votes. But we've got teams like Georgia's 3-1. They're receiving votes. They were unranked last week, or not receiving votes. They're 13th.
Oh.
We got a couple of 2-1 teams in the top 10. We've got Arkansas is 1-1-1. They're number 8 in the country. Sure, why not? North Carolina's 2-2. UCLA is 1-2. They're 23rd in the country. 1-2, and they're ranked still. So
Stupid.
Texas Tech does not get the benefit of the doubt, to no one's surprise. But anyway, coming up this week, back at home, hosting SMU Thursday night, 7 p.m. Wear red if you're in town and you can go. And then they're off for a full week, and we'll be back in action at New Mexico State next Thursday, September 4th, down in Las Cruces at 8 p.m.
Down in Las Cruces.
Down in Las Cruces. Down in the West Texas town of down in the eastern New Mexico town of Las Cruces.
All right, quick update with basketball, Michael. They released their home non-conference schedule.
Non-con, Spencer? More like yon-con.
Yeah, it's bad. Bad as that joke. Home opponents are going to be Lindenwood, Sam Houston State, Milwaukee, New Orleans, Wyoming, Northern Colorado, and Winthrop.
Hang on, I didn't know the Bucks and the Pelicans were coming to town. Back to back.
Is Denver in Northern Colorado? Is that the Nuggets now? Sam Houston State, so the Rockets. So you get the Rockets, the Bucks, Pelicans. Wyoming is its own thing. The Nuggets. Where even is Winthrop?
I don't know.
Or Lindenwood. I know Kansas played Lindenwood in football a couple years ago.
I
St.
think
Charles,
Lindenwood.
Missouri.
I think Lindenwood is a some rent houses off Erskine in Northwest Lubbock.
Close. It's Linwood, but
Mm.
it would probably be able to field about a competitive basketball team as Lindenwood.
Yeah, I mean, I
hate this. I hate it.
I don't like that Texas Tech has zero juice in their home schedule. Absolutely none. I do appreciate that Duke's on the schedule at MSG. I appreciate that they're playing. Is it LSU that they play in Fort Worth or Frisco, wherever it is? That's
so.
great. That's great. But maybe get a home and home with one of those quality opponents, one of those quad one opponents. That I think Texas Tech has enough cachet at the moment where Alabama would maybe do a home and home with Texas Tech, or some of these other teams that have finished high in the end of the tournament. Get something going with Gonzaga. Get something going with somebody. But that's just kind of the nature of it. And I know that I feel like McAslin has put together tougher non-con schedules than we've seen under previous regimes. That's for sure. But sure would be nice to have a little bit of something for the home fans.
Something.
Yeah. Especially during that Christmas break when the kids aren't there. I mean, that's a perfect time to take your family to a basketball game, but it's also a perfect time to Google where Winthrop is.
I mean, I can Google that right now. Winthrop basketball. They are
in Winthrop,
Rock Hill, South Carolina. Compete in the Big South Conference.
Big South?
Did Adonis Arms come through Winthrop?
Oh, maybe so. That may be the connection.
We're finally getting back for him.
Well, and right. Wyoming on the schedule is still because of our
we still their coach.
Our deal with their coach.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up. What do we learn? What do you think?
Let's do it.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either.
I don't know either. All right. Watched a couple more episodes of King of the Hill, Michael. Funny story. I looked up like top 10 episodes, and I printed them off real quick, and then I forgot it on the printer at the office, and my boss brought it into me. She's like, I don't know what this is. I was like, oh, my friend's trying to get me to watch the show, and he sent me over a list of episodes.
Don't blame me.
Watch. Well, she doesn't know you. But yeah, I
didn't send you a list.
No, I know you didn't. This was me. I looked at the list, and I printed it, and I forgot it like an idiot. I just had to shift blame for a second because I was too was not ready for that. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Anyways, one, I did not know about the Greg Daniels connection. He wrote and produced a lot of episodes of The Office, of Parks and Rec, and most of King of the Hill. So it makes a lot of sense why I'm actually really starting to enjoy King of the Hill.
It's resonating.
Two, everywhere I look, I keep getting I keep hearing Hank's voice. The what? I can't do it. I can't do it yet. But Bobby, oh my goodness, if I could age my middle child, will be 5. Like the way he acts is what I think. Like I see a lot of Hayden in Bobby and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my gosh, that's going to be him. Anyways, I'm enjoying it. I watched, I think the episode was Bobby Goes Nuts or something, where he took that self-defense course at the YMCA, the women's.
I don't know you.
That's my purse.
Whoa.
And one, like, Hank loved that he was fighting back and getting in fights, and then when he learned out what he was doing, he's like, "No, Bobby." Oh my gosh, I again was losing it on my lunch break. I had was trying to be very careful because
There's a well placed callback to that in the new season, and that's all I'll say.
Good. I'm sure I'll get there. But and the other one I watched today even was when the four friends were on the volunteer fire department. And it was told as like a recap, like a reenact when they're going through like all the things that had gone wrong. Oh my gosh. Like when they brought the jaws of life and just like snipped the fire hydrant in half.
The best part to me is from Boomhauer's perspective, where everybody talks like him and he's the only one that talks like a normal human being. Now, guys, what I've tried to tell you is that you got it, and the whole time, oh, dang, I'll tell you what, we got to get over here, and dang, everybody's talking like Boomhauer. Oh, that's great. That's my favorite.
And the other thing I wanted to touch on, I'm sure everybody else is, I mean, if you're locked in on the random TikTok algorithm as I can get sometimes, is European pickpockets. I don't know if you've seen this, Michael. They're learning again, I guess, not to target American tourists. I don't know if you saw this specific one. This one lady had her backpacks on. She was on a vacation with her husband in Venice and had her backpack stolen. There was enough Apple technology in that bag where they could track it with Find My Friends or whatever. So they were able to catch up with her. The pickpocket was a young girl. And the woman that had her backpack stolen basically grabbed this pickpocket by her ponytail and did not let her go for almost an hour. And they were screaming at each other until the authorities arrived and handled the situation. I just imagine one, if one, I don't think I would hold a woman by her ponytail for that long.
For that long,
I don't know.
So you have a limit.
I don't know, but like if I'm sitting there holding somebody by a ponytail with one hand, and I'm screaming like furious enough to be screaming at them, I'm probably swinging with the other hand. Like I'm probably holding with my left hand and punching with my right. So one, this woman had a lot of self-restraint. Two, getting a lot of props. One from around the country, but also in other European countries. People are like, you need to protect your belongings and all this kind of stuff. And then everybody's like, Americans are so violent. Like, you know why there's a pickpocketing problem in Europe and not in America? Because y'all tolerate this, and you don't have people fighting back like Americans are fighting back. And I don't know if you remember going back to the Olympics in Paris. They were legitimately saying, Americans, stop beating up the pickpockets. Like, the fact that you're coming out to defend the pickpockets is why you still have people doing this.
We're not ones to just go, oh man, well that stinks. Got pickpocketed today.
So they're learning the American lesson
too bad.
of FAFO in the most hilarious fashion, and I'm here for
it. What I learned, Spencer, is I think I would like Texas Tech to play in Ireland someday.
I don't think I do, but defend.
I think I would, because all week, especially friend of the show, Scott, who does Bosco's Boys, great Kansas State podcast. He posted quite a bit over the week of all the cool things he was doing. I believe he and his dad were over there touring some castles and going to museums and, hitting up all the Kansas State parties and
the state of Kansas. What you mean, Kansas State or state of Kansas parties?
Kansas State University. Yeah, there was some confusion there on the flags. I'm sure a lot of y'all saw. But what blows my mind is how is it only the Kansas State flag? Because if you look up Iowa State, does it not pop up the Iowa State flag? I guess not. Anyway, so Scott was over there. He was showing his Guinness. I've apparently follow a lot more K-State people on Twitter than I thought I did, and a handful of Iowa State people. So I was seeing the beautiful pours of Guinness, trying to get the the first drink, but to split the G. Just great shots of the pubs of the area, just crowds of people in Ireland. Wearing Kansas State gear, wearing Iowa State gear. It's just such a cool looking dichotomy. Anyway, I don't know. I don't want to say I felt left out, but I was very excited for them and those fans to kind of experience that magnifying glass of all of college football on them, and to go to a place like Ireland and kind of experience what I assume is the welcome they had. I think it's what I've seen is I think the locals tolerate it well enough. I'm probably quite a few of them enjoy it and get a kick out of it. But I don't think I didn't see any negative stuff really from either side on that aspect of it, but it looked fun. I kind of had a little FOMO there. You're talking about FAFO. I'm talking about FOMO.
I don't think we wouldn't be invited back. There may be enough like of a reputation that like we wouldn't get invited at all. I just don't think that would go well for the locals. Wouldn't go well for the West Texas fine folk to fly out to Europe and get that experience.
Do you think it would be the most? It would be the most tortillas per capita ever in Ireland's history.
Yeah, they'd probably have to sneak down to Spain to procure enough tortillas, and then I say sneak like run down to Spain because it's pretty easily to get around down there. Pick up lots of tortillas and bring them back.
I just think we would have we'd have a checked bag full of tortillas. I think every Tech fan would just, whatever group they're in, there would be one bag of just tortillas that goes on the plane.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, you're right. I wonder. I mean, who would? Okay, I know you're not really into it, but I guess I should have put this on question. But I wanted to do what we learned first. If Texas Tech were to play abroad in a game like this, two-part question. One, where would you pick Texas Tech to play, and who would you pick them to play? If you knew it was going to happen no matter what, but you got to make the choices. Brett Yormark's calling you like, hey, brother, we're going to give you the decision, even though we know you don't want this.
Give me A&M.
Oh.
And let's go
Qatar? Cater? However you say it.
Oh,
that's a home game for A&M. We can't do that.
Let's go London.
London? I can just imagine a bunch of Aggies and Red Raiders in London. That's a rich thought. I like it.
We would revolt and say, y'all want to go to Paris? Nope. In fact, I do not.
I think I would stick with Ireland, but I would probably pick Oklahoma State.
That could be cool.
It would start the year off with a Big 12 game, conference game.
I just don't like having like a conference meaningful game being week 0. Like,
yeah, I had mixed feelings on that too, especially this matchup because it is one of in the new Big 12. I don't know if it's the best, but definitely probably 1, 2, or 3 best rivalries of these teams that are remaining. As far as animosity and both fans really getting into it and having its own name that apparently the administration is trying to, of both schools.
It's so dumb. Yeah.
Is trying to shut down the whole Farmageddon thing, which doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it may be the best rivalry in the Big 12. I'm not positive on that. I don't know enough about Arizona State. That might be up there too. Utah, BYU, actually that might be it really. But a lot of us old timers, I mean, it just doesn't quite have the vitriol or the zip. You know, it as much as we hate to lose to TCU, Baylor, and Oklahoma State, I just don't. It doesn't quite have the attention of everybody like Farmageddon does, or at least in my Big 12 neck of the woods. So, yeah, I'm with you. That was kind of a negative of this experiment, was having such a marquee Big 12 game occur overseas. It was technically a home game for Kansas State, for what that's worth. I don't know.
Sucks to lose that one.
Yeah.
On both levels.
Too bad. Someone had to.
All right, so that'll do it for us in 23 Personnel Podcast. Getting you ready for opening kick versus the Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions. Michael and I both have Red Raiders being victorious this weekend. 6 p.m. kick? I don't know. Get ready. ESPN Plus Saturday evening. Lots and lots of points to be scored for our Red Raiders. That'll do it for us. For Michael, I'm Spencer. We'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at Punt Suck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.